Welcome to Worlds Collide, a wrestling card podcast for wrestling fans by wrestling fans, featuring Tony Vella from WrestlingTradingCards.com.
This is like a stock market.
And Zhan Morning from Wrestling with Cards on YouTube. And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer, I'm just posing the question. Join them as they navigate the world of wrestling cards, helping you build a bigger and better collection and making some money along the way. What's up, wrestling fans, trading card collectors? Another week, and it's another episode of Worlds Collide.
Colliding once again.
Wow, that's like the super pro wrestler monster truck introduction. I need to get better at that.
Sunday.
Absolutely, we got to get more lively on here, but it's late.
Yeah, we're just like kind of bland individuals, aren't we? We don't have any. There's no comedy on this. There's no shock.
The whole show is comedy.
That's what we are, folks. We want to bring the comedic side to the wrestling card community.
Absolutely. So today we're going to talk about some vintage speculation. I think obviously right off the bat, most people are like, oh, Wrestling All-Stars or 85 Tops or, Wrestling Annual Andre cards, stuff like that. And
sure.
Most people, Tony, you've actually said at the National that, it's kind of been established now that Wrestling All-Stars, like us as a community, we've known this for a while, but it's like the card set to have.
It's widely accepted by anybody who is a vendor at any wrestling cards, or anybody who it's just widely accepted within the entire community. I think of sports card collecting has looked at wrestling and goes, this is the piece. And it's rightfully so. We've known this for a long time like you said, in our own section of the hobby, but I think the cat's out of the bag now.
Yeah. And we've heard people also within our community say, no, gold refractors are the best things to have, or prism golds, or prism
Sure.
1-of-1 blacks. And I like all that stuff too. But if you take all wrestling cards that have ever been produced and put them down in front of everybody, most people know the All-Stars, and they're going to be like, they maybe know the value, they maybe know the names, and not so much like if they get a prism gold, they're like, okay, it's out of 10, but what does that actually mean? Like,
sure,
it sounds like I know how valuable that is. Some people listening to this know, but it's one of those things where if you have to sometimes if you have to explain something to somebody, maybe it's a little too confusing. Whereas opposed to these All-Stars, you can put it down in front of them. They're like, oh yeah, Ric Flair. I know This card's got to be valuable. So, but then there's some other stuff within, if you want to call vintage, and I think what I like to classify as vintage wrestling is like from the 80s and backwards. Like that.
Sure.
That's vintage to me. Obviously, some people will have different.
You're counting the 80s, or from 1980s, so like 79 backwards? Or are you counting the 80s?
Yeah, I'm counting the 80s.
Yeah,
so
gotcha.
Like 89 backwards.
Duh. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's kind of that's kind of my definition, and that can again change for everybody. They may have a different, but wrestling is again a different thing where like you want to call vintage baseball like pre-war stuff, but
sure.
And we did have wrestling cards then, but it was like the wrestling card boom was in like the 60s, 70s, 80s period is when it started like actually becoming prevalent. So that's why I like to call that stuff the vintage. But what we're going to talk about today is maybe there's some stuff in there that you could actually speculate on, like people prospect. And what we mean by that is sets that it's not even like maybe that we find them undervalued, but these are sets that actually have really good stuff in them, and they just haven't picked up, they haven't gained the popularity or the pricing that some of the All-Stars. And I also want to say that I've really changed my perspective on this, like speculation, investments, blah blah blah. Over about the past year or so, I've kind of changed my mindset on that to where like I buy something because I think it's awesome. Like just the other day I picked up, and I'm sure it'll be on my Instagram account by the time this airs because I post most of my cards that I get on there. But I bought Roman Reigns Prismatic Entrances Mojo. So there's only 25. So I wrapped up, I got a modern prism purchase, and it's a Mojo. So it's a cool design. It's only 25. But the image on the picture is Roman's entrance, and he's walking out with the Usos holding their belts and Paul Heyman right behind him holding that belt up. And I'm like, this is the entrance you see with a modern Roman as he's coming out.
Yep.
So I got the rarity, I got the cool image, and it's an insert card, which I know that most of the hobby, they're like, oh, we want the main card. The insert variations don't do as well. And I'm like, I don't care. I bought this card because it's a like I don't feel like I need to be a Roman super collector, but this is my Roman piece. Like
Sure.
this is like sums up my enjoyment of his current time with us. And I buy it because I like it and it's cool. And yeah, it might have value down the road, but I'm having much more fun and enjoying my collection more where I can buy this card. I can keep it for as long as I want. If I sell it eventually, I'll probably gain some money on it, but it's
Mhm.
not like I went out to specifically buy this card to then resell. I can
Yeah, it
do
could.
that with like collections and stuff, but I just want like that's kind of a mind shift as far as the speculation we're going to talk about.
Mhm.
That I'm not. I've kind of changed the way of like I don't just go buy things to then oh yeah this is going to be hot, 2 years down the road I'm going to sell it. It's like I'm buying this stuff because I love it. It's cool. It's rare. It's awesome. And then maybe yeah if I decide to sell it down the road that's fine, but I'm not planning on it. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that out there before we start talking about the kind of speculation. This isn't like a pump and dump thing.
Yep.
So my pick right off the bat when we brought this topic up was the 1988 Wonderama. Like it's the first, I think, technical NWA actual set,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a huge set. And I love the images because they're very primitive pictures, and it reminds me of the NWA in the mid '80s with the smoky arenas, the one light on the ring, that boring blue canvas that just said NWA on it in yellow letters. That was like crappy font.
The cards themselves almost remind me of like a cardboard version of a Polaroid.
Yes, that is a perfect way to describe that.
Yeah.
And I just and I'm talk I just think there's so much cool things in here, like from the header card of Ric Flair with the
Yep.
NWA logo that says Wonderama Super Cards or whatever on it. And like I know there's a bunch of those because there was one in every pack. But even when I see those in PSA slabs, I'm like, man, this is just so cool. You've got all of the Sting rookie cards in there, and I think we could both agree that these actually are rookie cards because I don't remember him having any cards out before these.
Mm.
And then you've got all like the regular heavy hitters that you would have in Crockett during that time: Lex Luger, Ric Flair, all the Four Horsemen, uh,
Road
Bobby.
Warriors.
Yeah, road. Oh man, the Road Warriors cards in there. I don't know why I didn't mention those first. Ron Simmons, Doctor Death, Steve Williams, like these names of that time period. And what I'm trying to say is like they're not Hogan, they're not Andre, they're not The Rock, but they're the more people that get into wrestling cards that were from the that have a like historic wrestling background or like vintage wrestling, they can kind of go back and relive those moments through these cards. And they are some of them are action shots, like you said. They look like straight up Polaroids in
Mm.
card form. So I just think that it's a set that like people know about it, but they're not really talking about it like they're talking about the
People
73
know
annual
about it
or
that are in our section. There's a group of people. I don't
yeah.
think this is not going to be the prison boys aren't going to come in and know what this stuff is because
No.
they don't go beyond things that are shiny that aren't shiny. But as people start getting more into the trading card side of and start delving deeper beyond is like they're all going to know the 82 All Stars. We've always keep talking about that. Sometimes it gets a little tiring talking about because I mean it's just what it is. What
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's a monumental set. It's what it is in our hobby. But there's a lot of little other things that come out around that time frame in that decade that don't see a lot of play for the common wrestling card collector. Um, and I think, yeah, I'm gonna one of my picks would be your the 88, but I take it even back to the 87 test run.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
which is the first 50 cards of that set. Same header cards, same Sting rookie in that one. It's just it's not talked about as much as other as your 85 tops, as your 82, 83 all stars. Um, it should be, and I think it's kind of a sleeper hit when it comes to vintage stuff. I really do.
I
For all
think
the reasons that you just said, just like that, for all the exact reasons you just said.
I talked about, we talked about the all stars and that you can just put them down in front of somebody and they know what they are.
Sure.
Like even somebody who doesn't even collect cards, they could see these and be like, oh yeah, then I watched him, I watched them. That's an awesome looking card. I think this Wonderama set could really be like a gateway to some of those people that are, maybe in there, maybe they're not like, I guess it could be somebody getting into vintage, but maybe it's somebody like that grew up, watching NWA 605 Saturday night,
Sure.
and they aren't necessarily like, they don't have a favorite wrestler, but this was their favorite time period. All of a sudden, they can start buying these cards and they relive those through all of these. They don't care about parallels. They don't care about, autographs, maybe per se, but they could be like, oh, this is Sting's first year that he was ever in a card set, and there's all these Sting cards. I love the Four Horsemen and their rivalry with such and such, and they're all in
Mm-hmm.
here. I think it's just a really cool gateway for somebody to get into like the vintage style. And like, kind of what I mean is like, we saw the surrounding hype around Ric Flair's last match, and watching they brought Jim Crockett Promotions back for one night. They had the old backdrop. They had all the nostalgia that
Mm-hmm.
these wrestling fans would want. And I'm like, okay, well, this would be a perfect transition into wrestling cards because it's everything they liked about that Ric Flair's last match show in cardboard form.
Mm-hmm.
So
Agreed.
that's just, it's, I'm not saying this set is going to the moon. I'm not saying it's going to be worth a lot of money. It's just something that I think a lot of
I don't think
wrestling
it's gonna be.
fans aren't.
It's not gonna equal an all-star sets like
No,
that. But you know
no.
what? It could be a close second, that type of thing, because of the class of people that are in it. A lot of rookie cards or early first type cards like that. I think it's overlooked. Really do. I think it's overlooked in the grand scheme of wrestling cards. A lot of attention is brought to the 83 All Stars. A lot of attention is brought to shiny stuff for the modern era, and then we have all this stuff trickled in between those two
Yep.
things. This falls in that category. But when you have a Sting rookie card, and when you have some of those amazing images of Road Warriors, you said you got Flair in there. I mean, it's ripe for a lot of cool. And if you're looking for from a value standpoint, it's ripe for a lot of cool, speculating for grading purposes. That could, it could be thousands of dollars in there. I mean, there really could be. There should be, and I think I think there will be. I think there will be. Um, it's a pretty cool set. It's like I said, it captures that time perfectly. The imaging that they use is very Polaroidy, magazine style type of pictures in some of those without all the words and so it's really cool. I like it. That whole era is great. Um, the 87 one is even harder. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
taking the 88 with this massive 343 card set or whatever it is like that, and then you take take it back a notch like that, make it even harder.
It's that
Get that
extra level
87.
of chase.
It's next level chase. Ain't ain't no pretty stickers, ain't no gum. It's just it is what it is there, and it's just they're cool cards, man. Very cool cards that I think are slowly getting more and more recognition, slowly getting more and more like highly desirable collectabilities like that. It's been a slow burn for that stuff. You see some on there up on eBay, people selling stuff they've gotten graded, but it's not getting the same attention as the 85 82, 83 All Stars or the 85 tops. Um, but it's getting there. It really is. I like that set a lot.
I also want to say that I think there's a lot of things out there that people say is like, this wrestler should be this price. I don't know why it's not
Sure.
worth it, or this set, is undervalued. Blah blah. Like the stuff I'm talking about today is stuff that is like popular tippy top stuff that just isn't catching on for whatever reason. It's not like I'm pulling some random obscure, like mid-tier jobber talent out and saying this is the next guy, he's
Sure.
gonna, whatever. So another thing I want to talk about, Macho Man. Like obviously he's extremely popular in the hobby. His cards sell for a good amount of money. However, I think he's up there with like the Hogans and the maybe in Hogan, Andre, Austin, Rock. Like Macho
Sure.
Man is kind of hovering around that level from like a longevity standpoint, from a mainstream perspective. Snap into a Slim Jim, people know
Sure.
that even if
He's
they don't know wrestling.
yeah, he's got the cross appeal of not just wrestling, but in the pop culture itself.
Yeah, and I just don't like. I'm kind of baffled at why his cards don't do the numbers, don't see the popularity as some
I'm
of these
blown
other
away
guys.
by it. I mean, he's only got two authentic autograph cards. Well, if you count the recent one of one cut, but I'm just talking about You
like
know,
the massive, I won't say mass produced, but the like consumer available ones.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
talking, I mean, you got his WCW autograph card and you got his Action Pack autograph card. And while those do some good, decent numbers per se, I think it's a fraction of what his value is in connection to his appeal to both wrestling and pop culture. As a
yeah,
pop culture person with the oh yeah and all that stuff, and snap into a Slim Jim and all those things, being in a movie like Spider-Man, things like that. I mean, he's definitely during his lifetime crossed over into that pop culture thing with people even still wearing T-shirts that have his picture on it, who probably don't even know what the hell they're wearing. I think
yeah,
it's just and so why his value doesn't seem to be teetering in that area of a Hogan, a Flair, an Andre. Um, you know, and it should be. He really should be. I don't know what it's going to take for card collectors to look at him and kind of go, why is it? It should be. I'm pushing him to the moon, man. I'm making
hmm
this a $15,000 card kind of thing. I don't know why that is. I mean, there's some people out there. Jamie Wallace out there. I mean, the
yeah,
guy's had 3 of those damn cards. Like, I don't know. Hats off to him. That's amazing. But I don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, he has a lot less cards out there to go out and collect compared to the other guys we've talked about on any of these lists. There's a lot more Sting autographs, a lot more Hogan autographs, a lot more Ric Flair autographs. There's a lot more of that stuff than there is Savage, and Savage's career is right up there in that top 10, top 5 type of thing on people's lists.
Well, something else I think is interesting is, let's take what is it, the 86 Scanlons?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's right around that time frame at 85 tops. And we see a lot, we see the Hogans and we see a lot of the
Well,
other
that's Scanlon's is an 85 tops, basically what it is.
but it's
It's
86 is the
86,
year on it,
correct.
correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, and what we see a lot of the people talk about are some of these cards in this same general area, like Piper. I see that 85 tops Piper
Yep.
posted all the time, and I'm thinking, why am I not seeing the same amount of traction for this Macho Man from this same time period? And I see all these other cards being shared. I'm like, well, where's Macho Man? But
Yep.
then I go back, I'm like, okay, well, some of his autographs surely. And then I'll look at the WCW autographs, and I'm seeing like Kurt Hennig or Bam Bam Bigelow or some of these other guys that like seem to have more of a chase. Maybe they're a bit more rare. Some of them are even selling. Sometimes I feel like they're selling for more than what Macho Man is going
That's
for. From
incredible to me. Really, it
it's
is.
yeah,
We
I
all
just
have
don't
our
understand.
favorites, like, why isn't Rude getting more love? Why isn't Perfect getting more love? Whatever they get, why isn't Iron Mark Sharp not getting enough love?
He's too busy taking a shower. That's
He's too
why.
busy taking a shower. It's like that. Well, you got to take care of yourself when you're the Canada's greatest athlete. It's just you see someone like Macho Man, who, again, we've said it many times, he transcends just the wrestling type of stuff. He's got that multicultural type of appeals like that, and yet he's just not getting that value. Like, what am I missing here?
Yeah,
What's the missing numbers I'm missing here to make this all add up right?
I don't know. Like I can't pinpoint it. Um, I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see what
Wrestling
happens.
fans, man, it's such a very complicated
Yeah. Well, and
market
then you
out
think
there.
about it, like, we saw in Prism, we've seen just about all your tippy top guys that are wrestling legends, no Macho Man.
Yep.
Oh, we saw him in Revolution.
I saw him in Revolution, and I not quite sure. I think that he was, but I don't think he even went for very much then either, did he?
Not from what I've seen, no.
I mean, I'm sure there's got to be a Macho Man Galactic out there, which
Hmm
is a one per case type of hit. But I guess in the one of one cut that came out, like, what kind of values that have? I mean, Jamie would know. He
Takes
acquired it,
one
and
person,
yeah, well, he acquired it. Someone else pulled it. They had it. Jamie wanted it. He went after it, and it cost him some stuff in trade. What is that long term value going to be on that one of one? I don't know. It should be probably more than whatever the hell it's going for now.
yeah. My last thing I wanted to touch on, and then I can kind of turn it over to you and whatever it is that you are wanting to talk about in this realm. And
I'm just chiming in on all this, man. We're kind of going back and forth on it.
I'll point, if you're watching the video here, stuff like this. regional oddball releases. And it doesn't even
Yeah,
have to, we're going to steer a little bit away. It doesn't even have to be wrestling cards. It could be type 1 photos of something, or it could be
sure.
like the board game. I know Uncle Danny recently stumbled onto some Boyd Pierce
Yep,
photo cards.
yep,
They're kind of trading cards, but they're kind of not.
yep.
So stuff like that that's autographed, or you want to go back to like Rax roast beef stuff, which I think Peck's like I feel like he's the only person out there who has those. Just weird, oddball. We talk about oddball food products all the time, but
Sure.
I think there's these other things out there, whether it was like, I know programs and stuff like that have been done to death, but like, looking at some of the magazines that actually just that those photos in those magazines are the exact ones used in the all-star sets.
Yeah, I
Stuff
actually
like that.
found some of the magazines there at the National, of the magazines that were actually, and Peck has shown these before on his social media, where he shows the actual magazines that were eventually, those images were used in the
Hmm.
trading card for All Stars. I saw those magazines at a booth at the
That's cool.
Nationals like that. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
One
And
thing
of
that
course, and me, I didn't do that kind of research. That's where you kind of got to commend a guy like David to go out there and doing that research, finding out which pictures went to where. And like, I identified that because I'd seen that being posted on social
Yep.
media. So I like, oh, I knew exactly what that was and where it was from. I know exactly where that picture's at.
It's just an additional, thing that you can kind of think outside the box. One thing I want to say though, on kind of, we can talk about the cards and we can talk about these regional things, and that's kind of these just like weird, interesting products. Like, I want to talk about like maybe the 80, is it 85? Is it 84, 85 All Stars, the ones in the magazine?
And the magazines. Oh, there's 85, and
85. Okay.
there's also an 81 or something like that.
A lot of people I've found out, like, unless like I'll say outside the wrestling card bubble, they don't like the 85s as much because they're always cut weird. And a lot of times when you find them in a slab, they're like authenticated hand cut. They won't have a grade on them. And I think some of those things sometimes may be a little bit harder for people to wrap their heads around, from like a like print run sets, blah blah blah, stuff like that, because they're so weird that if PSA is not giving them a regular grade, or if one card's got a grade where it's cut weird and the other one has no cuts but it's just perforation, they're
But
getting a
there, I mean,
different grade.
it's a cool card. It encompasses that one you're talking about. It's the 85 Wrestling All Stars from Quinn
It
Studios like
was
that.
85. Okay.
Yeah, it was 85, and so it's like the one with the white border around it. It's like that. It's got the name on the right hand side, and it encompassed. It was a multi federation type of promotion type of set. It wasn't specific to WWF or
Right.
NWA. So I had different people from all different kinds of things. It was a cool set. It was a great way to get a little something from every promotion, major promotion out there. And I think it's a cool design, but yeah, it maybe I don't get the reason why those don't have the same kind of love as other cards from that era.
Because it's more of a, I'm just like playing devil's advocate. Like, I think people can't like associate them with the same kind of what sort of uniformity of trading cards because they're magazines.
But they're not pack pulled, so therefore they don't really qualify as trading cards. Well, the
No,
hell,
I
never.
think I think it more so has to do with like people have continued to get the 70, was it 73 annuals, the
Sure.
paper ones, into PSA slabs. PSA grades them. They actually have had consistent grades.
Yeah.
These, everyone I've seen in a slab, like, some of them have grades, some of them don't, and just say hand cut authentic because of how weird the cut is. Because
Hmm.
some of those cards have flat edges, some of them have perforations. So like
Sure.
half of the card might be straight and the other part might be perforated. So it's like a little bit harder, but I think there's a lot of cool. There's a couple of, I think that's the first Road Warriors cards that are in there. So I mean, if you want to consider that as their first card, rookie card, whatever, that's in
Sure.
there. So there, and I think the Freebirds are in there. Maybe that's one of their first
They are.
cards. Uh,
Card number 9.
if you like Memphis, Fabulous Ones are in there. There's a lot of good names in there, so I mean, it's a cool set. But I just think that maybe sometimes these oddball things get a little too oddball for like the mainstream collectors.
I mean, come on. I mean, even people trying to make Monty Gum a thing, it's like that. And that's the oddball of all oddballs, really. It comes to that era.
That's another
Um,
thing that I have not. I've, we joke about it. They're fun cards, but they don't seem to be taken off like you would think, because they got
Yeah,
a lot of heavy hitters in there.
yeah. I mean, even from mainstream people, there's actually Muhammad Ali and other people in
Yeah.
there too. I mean, it's just yeah, that whole era is just it's a weird era. There's like certain things people gravitate towards, and they say this is going to be the thing that that we love, and then other things are not. And I don't know. Maybe I just kind of like other stuff. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, there's even like the action figure cards too that came out during that time frame as well, from like that LJN series like
Yep.
that. Those were cut out cards too, and there's some great stuff on that. That ran from '84 to '89.
And
Um,
I've seen some of those autographed in PSA slabs, and they're kind of they're the oversized slabs,
yep,
which I used
yep.
to hate. But then like I got my hands on some of those at one point, and I'm like, these are actually kind of cool. It's more of like, it's not a card, it is, but it's not. It's more of like a display piece.
I mean, that whole era that right there too, there was so much other cool stuff at the time. There was a lot more food stuff that came out, even with your carnation set.
Carnations, yeah.
You're gonna have like your tag teams of the year set from like '88 or something like that. Was a
Hmm.
a chips set. Even your hostess, sticker type stuff, and even hell, ice cream bars started in '88.
Yep.
The Gold Bond stuff started in '88, and that ran through till 2000, whatever I think it was. Ran through three different companies: Gold Bond, then it went to Good Humor, then it went to Unilever or something like that. Something like that. And then, but Quaker Dips had stuff in there. That was kind of
Those are
paperish type
super hard
stuff.
to find.
Yeah, both years are hard to find,
Yeah.
87 and 88. And then, even wrapping up, like, I mean, even if you kind of qualify, the 89 versions of Classic that came out, that, came up just before the decade changed over. But that kind of wraps up. Those are all like other cool stuff that came out during that time frame that's all still qualifies that vintagey type of era. It's like that.
Yeah, I think if you kind of comb through the options that we've picked today, there's probably something that we've mentioned, whether we said we didn't like it or we did like it, that's going to, you know, start really picking up, obviously monetarily, but picking up popularity, because really that's what's going to drive the monetary value. Is we've talked before, prices and popularity don't always mean rookie card. Well,
Sure.
we might see this with these sets. Like, some of these sets might take off based on popular. Maybe it's ice cream bars, because the nostalgia, it takes
Yeah.
people back to that. So who knows if those could, Circle K cards. There's another example
Yeah.
of
Another one
those.
too. I mean, and going on to the magazines too, don't forget that 81s that came out for Wrestling Superstars, the paper ones with the cutouts like
Yep.
that, which has got, Hogan and Abdul the Butcher, and it's got, Dory Funk Jr., I think's in that one too, and Kerry Von Erich. I mean, there's a whole mess of different people in there. It's like that are in that set. But again, it's paper cards. Um, I think anybody looking at it would just thought that was just paper you had to cut out. But I think the cover of the magazine says wrestling cards like that on it. Collect them and trade them, whatever kind of thing. That's from that time frame. And at that same time frame, that's also '81. That's all same year as Poppy.
Yep. Oh, and then we can throw in those 3D cards that nobody can ever find.
Oh yeah, actually the oversized one, the
Yep.
3D cards, yeah, it's like that. I mean, they're super hard to come by, far and few between. Was that 85 or something like that, or
I don't
86?
remember the year. I just know that I can't ever find them.
Yeah, they're definitely 85. So like that's 12 card set. Like I had never seen the entire set. I'd seen images of like the majority of the set. So I didn't know. I had the checklist for it forever, and then when I finally went and started, just this year, as a matter of fact, I went through and going, you know what? I can't seem to find the images for all of it's like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on a hunt, and I found all 12 images of that card,
Oh,
and that Rocky Johnson card is
it's awesome.
badass.
Yeah, it is.
It's so badass.
Yep. That's the one I would want to own out of that. If I could just
Oh,
pick one, it would be that one.
it's just that he's wearing that hat. He's got the
Yep.
sunglasses on. He's just so badass, man.
All right. Well, hopefully, this whole episode was just about, can you speculate on vintage? What's some stuff maybe to look at? We're not saying go out and buy this or sell this. Again, it's just, spitballing ideas for maybe some stuff out there that people aren't thinking about or are thinking about, and just kind of pushing the popularity of some of these sets that
I don't think
aren't
it's a
the
bad
all
idea to
stars.
go out and collect anything from the '80s. Anything
Yeah.
from that whole decade. I don't think it's wrong to go after anything. Is it all going to be equal to the All Stars? No. Is it all going to even be equal to both of our favorites as well? The NWA set, Wonderama set? No. But
And
there's a lot of great.
it's not going to be WWE Prism either.
No, but it's all going to be very nostalgic. type of stuff, a lot of early stuff if you're looking for first appearances or early debatable rookie type stuff. And all of that stuff is harder and harder to come by, and it's all very collectible and it's all very cool.
Tony, do you want me to do your outro? Everything's available at wrestlingtrainingcards.com.
It is. It's all there. It's because we got to wrap it up here. So yeah, contact me if you want through wrestlingtradingcards.com. All social media is on the bottom of every page. 20th anniversary, yay! Made it 20 years. So that's all I got for you. What about you?
At Zhan Morning on all social platforms. Wrestling with Cards on YouTube. Wrestling with Cards, the podcast. Most importantly, though, you're listening to this today. We thank you for your time. If this podcast brought you some value, please subscribe, whatever you're listening to this on. Share the show with a friend. That's the best way to get the word out. And tag us on social media. Again, me and Tony are always talking about engagement. If you guys want to talk about some vintage wrestling, there's a lot of vintage wrestling guys on Twitter.
Yep.
Everybody be a fun discussion to get on, talk about maybe some vintage speculation like what we talked about today, and what's some not necessarily undervalued, overvalued, but like what is there a key rookie that may, who's got that Rocky Johnson 3D card? Like we need to see the people that have those.
That'd be great.
We thank you guys for listening. Until next time, keep collecting, keep having fun. We'll see you. And Wrestling Cards rule.
Wrestling Cards rule.